Most analysts are great at getting data out of a database, but how do you get data into a database? Let's learn all about it. I'm Woody Null. This is the Null Value, equipping you to add value with data and analytics. Most of the time, as analysts, the data we need is already in a database. It's put there by operational systems, by ETL jobs, or that kind of thing. But occasionally, we need to put our own data into a database, especially if we've just created our own database for an analytical project. This video will show how to create a database, how to create a table, and then how to populate that table with data. We'll be using Microsoft SQL Server, but any brand of database will work, and the steps will be slightly different, but mostly similar on those other brands. You'll need to have a database server, though, before we can start to add any data. My previous video covered that, so if you missed that, please go check that out. To begin, we'll open up Microsoft SQL Server and connect to our database. Now, in the Explorer tree, we can see that if we open up the databases folder, there aren't any databases in there. So we need to create a database. To create a new database, we're going to right-click on Databases and say New Database. Then we can give the database a name and fill out the fields in here. We'll call it My First DB. And then there are some other fields in here, but that's really all you need to do to get started. And you can see there's some advanced options in here as well. We're going to leave all those at the default value. I want to point out this script button here. If we click that, it will actually write a SQL statement that shows what it's doing behind the scenes to create that database. And this can be really helpful if we want to learn more about SQL. So for example, we can see in here that set auto close auth is specified in the SQL. And then in the window here, we can see auto close is false. If we change that to true and then script it again, we can see auto close is now on. And that's a good way to learn what SQL is doing behind the scenes. I'm gonna reset that back to the default of false, and we will just go ahead and run this create table by clicking OK. Now we can see in the tree, My First Database is there. Now when we expand My First DB, we can see that there aren't any tables. The next step is going to be to actually create a table. The way we create the table is going to depend a lot on the data that we're trying to load. For this example, I've located a set of weather data. It's a free download. I'll put the link in the description, but I'd encourage you to use a data set that's relevant to something you're working on. Tell me in the comments what type of data you're adding to your database. This weather data is a CSV file, meaning comma-separated values. Each value has a comma between it. Those commas are going to separate the columns out. And we can see the first row actually has the column names or column headers in there. And then each line represents one row of data. And we can see that there are some yes-no columns in here. These rain today and rain tomorrow columns are yes-no. I'm going to change those to a 1-0, a binary 1 or 0. That will be more efficient in the database. So I'm going to go to Edit, Replace, or Control-H. Anytime I see a yes, I'm going to want it to be a 1. And then I'll hit Replace All. And then anytime I see a no, I'm going to want that to be a 0. And then I'll replace all. Now, instead of yes and no, we have 1 and 0. If we come further down in the database, we'll start to see some NA values, meaning not applicable. And in our database, we don't want to have an NA value because that could be misleading or it could cause some hiccups. So we're going to change those NAs to just be blank. So that's pretty much all we need to do in the CSV file. So I'm going to File, Save, or Control S, that one. The easy way to create a database table is going to be to right-click on the My First DB, and then say Tasks, and then say Import Flat File. And then we can browse for our file and go through this wizard. In the Downloads folder, we have the weather.csv file. We can open that up and give the table a name, and it'll give us a little preview of what that data looks like. It'll give us the option to modify any of these columns, and then we can hit finish and it will create the table for us with that file. I'm actually going to cancel out of that and we're going to do it by hand so we can learn another way of doing it. So we're actually going to open up a new query window here. Control N. And we're going to write a create table statement. So I'm going to say create table, and then we'll give it a name. We want to call it weather. And then we have to specify the columns that are going to be in that table. Now, in our CSV file, we already have the list of columns typed out here, so I'm just going to copy and paste that first line with the column names in it and paste that in here. Then we need to specify a column type or data type for each column. And if you're not familiar with a data type, it tells the database what kind of data to expect in that column. So it could be text, it could be numbers, it could be dates and times. There is an official list on Microsoft's website that I'll put this link in the description here, that if you're not familiar with those. We're going to go through and set a data type for each column in the table. Temperature is going to be a numeric value. It may or may not have a decimal depending on how precise the instruments are. So we're actually going to call that a float. It may or may not have a value at all. If the value is missing, we still want to accept the rest of that row. So we're going to type null, which allows null values. And then we're going to go through and type out a data type and whether a null is allowed. So when we get all the columns typed out with a data type and a null, allowed or not allowed, this is what it's going to look like. So we can then go ahead and hit execute or press F5, and that will run this query that we've just written here. We can see commands completed successfully. If we right click on My First DB and click refresh, we will now see our table under the tables folder. We can see DBO weather. That is the table we just created. And if we drill into that one and go to look at the columns, we can see all those columns there that we just created. Now, there's still no data in this table. It is just an empty table. The final step will be to add data into that table. If you love data and analytics, please hit subscribe for a new video every week. Now we're going to actually insert the data into the table. And we're going to do this using the bulk insert command. Bulk insert. And then the name of the table we've already created is called weather. And then we have to tell it where the data is coming from. So in this case, I'm going to copy and paste the path of my CSV file, which is in my downloads folder. So now we're going to type out some options for how the database is going to interpret that CSV file. So we have this with clause here that says data file type equals character. That lets us know that we're putting characters into the CSV file. The first row is number 2, because remember, in the CSV file, we had that header row with the column names in it. Our data doesn't actually start until the second line, so that's telling it to start on line 2. Then our field terminator is a comma, meaning there's a comma between every value in the data. And then our row terminator is \n, which is a new line. Anytime there's a new line, it will be a new row of data in the database. So when we run this, 366 rows affected. All 366 rows from our CSV file made it into the database successfully. We can double check that by right-clicking on our weather table and say select top 1000 rows, and there is our data in the database. We learned how to create a database, how to create a table, and how to load data into that table. If you got value from this video, please give me a like and share it with a friend or coworker. We'll catch you next time on the Null Value.